Hello, I'm Jim Berkelman. I'm the program leader for the new Wildlife Conservation in South Africa course that we'll be holding this coming summer. Um, I don't want to take too much of your time, so I'm kind of just going to run quickly through some course details. Main thing I want to do is just answer any questions at the end that you have about the course. If questions come up while I'm talking, I would suggest you uh, just type them in the chat box, or you can just hold the thought if you want. And then when I'm done, either you can either type in the chat box or just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask them. Um, just going to share my PowerPoint here. Um, so are you all seeing the course details now?
Yep,
All right,
you're good to
good.
go.
All right. So, this basically shows some of the basics of the program. I'll go into more detail here. It's a summer program. We'll be running it for the first time this coming summer, 2026, during the last 2 weeks of August. So it's just before the start of the um, fall semester. Will come, I think, a few days before the start of the come back, a few days. It'll be worth 2 credits. Of Forest and Wildlife Ecology 375. That's a generic sort of special topics course because we haven't put this through as a new course yet. It's the inaugural run, but at least for students in the wildlife ecology major, we will let you use this course to meet one of our major elective course requirements. If you're in a different major, I saw on the registration sign-up sheet there were some students in conservation biology, zoology, perhaps some other majors. I would discuss that with your own academic advisor, like how might you get this fit into your major? But I would think I can discuss that with anyone who asks questions about like what would be an appropriate major equivalent for this course. Um, and then the applications are due February 6th. I'll say more about the application process at the end. Um, just a little background if you're not familiar with South Africa. It is at the very southern tip of Africa, about 63 million people. The largest city, which we'll be flying into, is Johannesburg. It's a city of several million, one of the larger cities in the whole African continent. Um, the currency there is the rand. Last I checked recently, it was about 17 rand to the dollar. Um, the dollar, I think, has been dropping, so it's actually getting weaker when I last checked. But um, I went there and visited the sites that we'll be going to January of this year, and uh, I don't think I exchanged money at all when I was there. I just used credit card for everything, and that's how you'll get the best exchange rate. So you don't necessarily need to worry about exchanging money. One nice thing about South Africa is pretty much everyone speaks English. English is one of actually 12 official languages in South Africa. There are two languages of European origin, English, and then Afrikaans, which is similar to Dutch. It's a sort of a Dutch-derived language that the first Dutch settlers spoke there. Um, but pretty much anyone who speaks Afrikaans as a first language can speak English. But then there are 10 indigenous languages, which no one would expect you to be able to speak as a foreign visitor. The climate is it's further south than most of Africa is pretty much tropical, but South Africa is actually south most of the country is south of the Tropic of Capricorn. So technically it's subtropical, although it's still warm and definitely a lot warmer in Wisconsin. Um, Parts of the country, though, are at high elevations, like Johannesburg is higher than Denver. And we will be there since it's in the southern hemisphere during the coolest time of year. So it'll be chilly at night, not rarely down to freezing, but it could be chilly at night and we will be there during the dry season, what their winter, which when it's dry and sunny and relatively cool, low humidity, so it's a pleasant time of year to be there. Um, the itinerary, so the dates of our trip, which is looks like I have to admit somebody else. The tentative dates are August 13 to 28. We've committed to those dates with our partners in South Africa. The only thing that could change would be the exact dates of our flight. May vary with whatever deals we can find for flights to South Africa. Um, but most flights to South Africa are overnight. I think pretty much all of them. So you leave the U.S. one day, you arrive in South Africa late the following day, um, and we'll fly into Johannesburg. So here's a map of South Africa. Johannesburg is, kind of northeast of the central part of the. And we won't spend much time in Johannesburg. We won't go into the actual city of Johannesburg. We'll just spend a night near the airport in the suburb of Johannesburg where the airport is. Um, and then the following day, we drive from Johannesburg to this research station where we'll spend the bulk of our time there. It's called Siafunda. I'll talk about more of that shortly. That's about a 5 to 6 hour drive. Our partners in South Africa will provide bus transportation. Um, and we'll stay at this research station for I think it's 8, 9 days. Um, and then from there, we'll spend the last 3 days of the course at Kruger National Park, which is the largest and sort of a flagship national park for wildlife. And it's right in the very sort of easternmost border of South Africa, up against this is Mozambique over here. Um, and it's about an hour or two away from the Siafunda, where we'll be spending the bulk of our time. From the national park, the last day we'll travel back to Johannesburg. This would be on the 27th. And then that evening, most of the flights back to the US leave in the evening, and we would arrive the following day. When I flew back from South Africa last January, there were very few direct flights back to the US. You had to go through Europe. So it ends up being a pretty long trip on the way back. When I flew there, I flew Chicago, Atlanta, Johannesburg. When I flew back, it was Johannesburg, Paris to Chicago, and I spent a good part of a day in the Paris airport in between flights. But um, that'll just depend on what kind of flights are available when we go there. Um, so what do we do for the class? As I said, we're spending the bulk of our class in a game reserve. And we'll be, pretty much the only people there, except for a group of field rangers that will be working with us and instructing us. The kind of daily activity is, and this is what I did when I visited there. They go on game drives or wildlife monitoring drives. So they will leave at the crack of dawn. You drive around on these dirt roads in the reserve and look for wildlife. And you also will be able to learn wildlife monitoring techniques. They have put radio collars on a number of the animals there, and they also have radio contact with other people monitoring the wildlife, so they can figure out where various animals are that we want to see or monitor, and then you each will get an opportunity to try out the radio telemetry equipment and then kind of figure out how to triangulate onto the locations where the animals are to find the animals. Um, you'll learn sorry for getting ahead there, other wildlife field techniques like they have trail cameras set up at various points in the world in the reserve where you you can see nocturnal or secretive animals or at least figure pictures and video footage of them that you may not see during the day. And you'll have an opportunity. While I was there, there was a group of students each day in the middle of the day in between the wildlife monitoring drives, like going over the camera footage that had been taken at some of these camera and figuring out what they're seeing and what the numbers are and what they're doing and so that another technique you'll learn is just like analyzing this camera footage. Um, you also will spend a day or so, and this is something they routinely have visitors do there in doing some habitat restoration, sorry, or just basic maintenance of the reserve. So I was there in the rainy season when there's a lot more green growth around, as you can see in the photos. The thing they had us do for a day was just there were a lot of branches growing in close around the dirt roads that they use to get around. We just had to like clear a lot of the brush so things don't get too overgrown so the vehicles can get through. But you might be doing things like they said there's the riverbeds will be dry there. We'll be there during the dry season. You might be cleaning up a riverbed, or you might be planting or clearing brush, things like that. That's for one of the days that we'll be there. Most of the time, like morning and evening, we'll be driving around in open vehicles to look for wildlife, or we may be walking on foot as well. That didn't happen while I was there because I was there in the rainy season when you can't see as far because there's a lot more vegetation. But they say in the dry season, it's you can see the animals a lot better and from a greater distance, and they can see us, which is safer, if you're walking on foot. And then you have a couple rangers along with rifles so the animals don't get too close. Um, we'll also have lectures by the staff that are there and also other local experts in the area on, wildlife conservation, local conservation issues, that sort of thing. And you also will be giving presentations to students in the course. So um, at this uh, the course will actually start a week before we go there. We'll have a couple of Zoom meetings the week before our departure, and I will assign to each student a different African wildlife species, which you will be responsible for being the expert on that species, and you'll put together a short presentation that you will share with the class while we're out there. So each student can sort of own a local wildlife species. You're the expert on that, and these will all be species that we should see while we're there. Um, while we're based at this research station, we'll have one sort of in the middle of the time that we'll have an excursion, like a half-day excursion to a canyon. I'll show you pictures later. It's kind of like the Grand Canyon. It's a huge canyon. We'll get a boat ride and see some of the scenery and the local wildlife there. Then, as I said at the end, we'll have a 3-day tour of Kruger National Park, which is just east of the reserve where we'll be spending the bulk of our time. Um, this just some photos of the research station where we'll be staying, where I stayed for about a week last January as I was visiting there. So they have a dorm where students and other visitors stay. You'll probably be in doubles or triples in this building. Kind of a simple building. There's beds, and then you have a bathroom, shower, and sink in each room. Um, there's a little pool. I wouldn't call it a swimming pool, more like kind of a wading pool there, what that you can cool off in, which was nice when I was there because it was very hot in January. That's in their summer. It'll be, cooler while you're there, but still, warm in the middle of the day. Um, it's a pretty small area, this research station. The three main buildings. There's the dormitory where you sleep. This is where the main office is, and also has a classroom with Wi-Fi, and where we'll be, having meetings and lectures and demonstrations. And there's a third building. Yeah, these students are on the veranda of the kitchen where you have your meals, um and then there's a garage attached to that where the vehicles take off from. One thing about this research station is you're right in the middle of this reserve. There are African wildlife close by. They sometimes wander right through the middle of this research station. So this is a herd of elephants drinking from like a water tank, which is just across the road from like the main kitchen area. When I was there, like the first day I arrived, a lion like walked right out behind this dorm. Elephants sometimes wander right through the middle of the station. There was a buffalo that would come and drink from the pool at night. Of course, these are dangerous animals, but the field rangers that run the place, they're kind of on alert. When they say, "Okay, there's a buffalo coming through," like everyone stands back or you go into your room. One thing you have to get used to there is you don't wander around at night. That's when the animals are most active. You stay in your dorm room at night. And I learned this one night. There's only Wi-Fi in the main sort of classroom area. I was working late one night, and one of the rangers that runs the place came in and says, like, "Are you going to bed soon?" And it's like, "Yeah, I'll soon enough." And they can't go to bed themselves until the last person at the station does, because they're looking out, like they're making sure everyone gets back to their room safely because of the wildlife that might be uh, wandering through. So you're definitely up close and personal with the wildlife while you're there. Um, and then, what you're doing each day with these game drives or wildlife monitoring drives are in these open safari vehicles. These are sort of like I guess SUVs that have sort of been rigged with there's three rows of seats. There's no roof, there's no walls. You're out there in the open. Um, it was this I was there in January, the warmest time of year. We'll be there in August when it'll be a good deal cooler. I've seen pictures of students that were there in when the time of year when we'll be there, and they're bundled up pretty good early in the morning, but it's it warms up fast, I'm told, when the sun comes up, but in the early morning it can be a little cool. um like I said, you're in open vehicles. As long as you're in the vehicle and sitting down, you know, the animals pretty much ignore you, and you can get pretty close to them. You don't want to stand up. You don't want to leave the vehicle when there's animals nearby, but we take potty breaks and whatnot where there aren't animals nearby. You'll learn things like uh, tracking, or identifying different animals from their tracks, and then figuring out what they're doing, what direction they're going in, what they might have been doing, and so on. In this one picture, doesn't look like much, but we got out near a termite nest, and it's saw some really interesting behavior between these ants that were sort of um, the ants were trying to, I think, take eggs or something from the termites, and then was also some kind of beetle that was attacking the ants, and there was this whole like fascinating interaction between termites and ants and beetles going on. Like people in Africa are so fixated on the large wildlife. There's a lot of interesting things going on with the smaller animals and even the insects that you know that's what the field rangers that work there, they're there to kind of show us these things and teach us about these things. Um, this is just some more pictures. These are all pictures I took while I was there. I'm not a big photographer. I don't have fancy cameras with big lenses. This was just with my phone camera, just to give you an idea of like you're pretty close to these animals, in open vehicles. And the big thing in South Africa, well, in all of Africa, they talk about the big five. That's what, everyone who goes there wants to see. That is elephants, rhinos, lions, leopards, and buffaloes. The five largest and most dangerous animals there. Um, and they have all of those in good number. The leopards are probably the hardest to see because they're very, very secretive and nocturnal. I didn't see a leopard while I was there. I smelled them, so that they have a characteristic smell, like kind of like popcorn. It's interesting, but we did see cheetahs, lions, lots of giraffe. All of these animals we're seeing on a daily basis. There's a lot of cool birds. Um, a little harder to photograph, but recommend bringing binoculars if you have them. This was an interesting tortoise we saw. Interesting thing about this is that at this reserve, this is a private game reserve we go to. Um, this was all farmland or ranch land like 30 years ago. And sometime in the 1990s, several landowners kind of got together. These were, I think, fairly well-to-do landowners and decided, like, let's create a reserve out of our adjoining properties. None of these animals were there. They'd all been excluded from the farmland. And, over time, they reintroduced all these. I mean, these are all native African wildlife species and native to this region, but they they haven't always been there, and it seems like it's completely natural, and it is, but it's you have to realize also this was farmland not that long ago. Um, and our excursions, like I said, we take one excursion to a canyon area. We'll take a boat ride, see the scenery and whatnot. That'll be in the middle of our time at the research station. And then the last 3 days, we visit Kruger National Park. And it's a large national park. It takes like a day or more to drive from one end to the other. So we'll spend 3 days touring the national park, and the national park is like the animals have always been there, and it's pristine. It hasn't been restored like the so you'll be able to see the contrast between this game reserve that is kind of in the process of being restored and rewilded versus a national park that is a much larger area, and kind of a flagship park for Africa. Um, Last few details about like who can take this course and how to apply and so on. So these are, I should mention, if you have questions specific to the application process, Rebecca Johnson in the Cal Study Abroad office is the study abroad like point person for this course. She also will be joining us on the trip as my co-leader, which will be useful for me because then in future years she can advise students about the course, having been there herself and speak firsthand about it. But the minimum requirements are, and this is for all study abroad courses pretty much, the minimum 2.0 GPA, a rising sophomore, junior, or senior. So if you're a freshman now, you would be eligible to go this summer if you've completed at least 24 credits, and I believe that includes AP credits, so I'm not sure. And it has to be current, UW-Madison degree seeking students. Um, and just seeing what else is on the slide here. We will give preference to wildlife ecology majors, and we will give preference to upper class students, juniors and seniors, who may not have another opportunity to go. If we get more applicants, then we have room to take. Our selection criteria would be your major and your seniority, and then other factors like that. That's where you want to write some good essays in your application. Um, for the application process, you apply through the program page, and this is an active link. But that's I can show you at the end how to get there. But the application deadline that's like I think the end of the second week, perhaps it's early in the spring semester. Um, and if you're wondering, like once you submit the application, it says decisions will let you know within 2 to 4 weeks if you're in or not. We'll likely have a wait list if we have more applicants that can go, because usually students that not everyone who is accepted decides to go. And then if you are accepted, you have about 2 weeks to confirm your participation or decline and give your spot to someone else. As far as costs, there is a program sheet on the program webpage with a rough estimate of, we don't have an exact program fee yet because it will depend in part on the number of participants we get, as well as the strength of the dollar and things like that. Um, but I I believe if you go to the website, that the estimate is like 4,500, which covers most of your expenses and uh, on on the ground travel. It does not cover your airfare, so that's an additional expense. Um, but if selected to go this summer, this is a perk for going this summer as opposed to a future iteration of the course, because it's a new program. There's a guaranteed scholarship of $1,000, so you can subtract that from your program costs, and then there are other study abroad scholarships that are available through the Wisconsin Scholarship Hub. So you want to apply for scholarships, if you plan to do this program, and then they I this is the first time we've gone to South Africa, but I led a 2 week study abroad program in Mexico for years. And students were pretty well funded. Those who really needed a scholarship to be able to participate were usually able to get one. And these study abroad scholarships would be in addition to the guaranteed $1,000. And I'd say UW really prides itself as on its participation in study abroad programs, and they want to make them available to anyone, not just those who from more affluent families who can afford to do this. Like if you feel like, oh, I could never afford to do this, you know think again, explore like other options for students that need it, and are really interested can generally find a way to do that. Um, I think that is all I have. So uh, let me open it up to questions now. So I guess if you asked questions in the chat box, um, I'm just going to stop sharing so I can see a little better here. Um, were there any questions in the chat box, Kira?
I didn't see any. I can also attest to the generosity of UW-Madison in handing out scholarships because so I know the whole process of applying. It's pretty easy. The essays aren't like exceptionally difficult. And then the requirements, like if you do receive a scholarship, usually it's they have you do like a task. Like I did a day in the life of like myself on my program, and they posted it on their Instagram. So requirements very low. I would apply even if you're like I don't think I'm gonna get it. I would apply anyways.
Thanks, Kira. Looks like there's several questions in the chat box now. So first from Luke Osgood, if I were to take online courses during the summer, would they typically conflict with this program? I will likely be teaching an online course for like it will not overlap with the standard 8 week session for summer courses. So if you're taking a course, whether it's online or in person, another summer course, uh, you could do this right. It'll be during the period in between the end of the 8 week session and the start of the fall semester. And by design, we wanted to make it available to students that way. Uh, does that answer your question, Luke? Uh, Max Ginsburg says if there is another 2 to 4 week program during the summer that doesn't overlap with this one, would be able to apply for both. So this actually just came up with another student that was interested. I one of our wildlife ecology students had applied for and been accepted into I think it was a Wild Rockies Field Institute program that was in June. They were yes, you can apply and do both. But when I think by default, if you go to if you apply for the program by clicking on the Apply Now link in the program website, um, this if you already applied for a different program, the South Africa program won't show up. But if you contact Rebecca Johnson in the study abroad program, she can toggle it, and she did this for the other students. She can adjust things so that you do get access and you can apply to both of them. It just doesn't want like students applying to two programs that may conflict in time, but something early in the summer shouldn't conflict with the South Africa course. Another question
I
here,
think
Ellis.
the next question's for me. The program that I got funded, well, that I got a scholarship for was my semester abroad in the Netherlands.
And what time of year did you do that? Was that
I
a
did that in
semester
the
program?
fall.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions? And I encourage you so others can hear and like if you're comfortable, feel free to unmute yourself or share videos, but share your video. But Ella.
Hi, sorry. I was also curious if this is not your first time abroad, and like, do you think that funding is still available? Like, I'm a Bucky's Promise student, so like, it's more of a if I can get funded, I can go type deal. I am working in with like an NGO this upcoming semester, SEBA. So I'm doing their semester abroad in Ecuador, and then that also comes with I'm like a cons bio major, so it's not the I'm not in Cal's, so would that affect like funding at all?
Do you know Kira?
So I think typically they prioritize students who haven't gone abroad, but that doesn't mean that you're not likely to get funding still. There's like, I think over $1 million in aid that they can give out, which is a lot
Okay.
of money. So I would still apply. I'm thinking about doing a second program. I'm gonna apply for scholarships for that. So yeah.
Sick.
Yeah, and also I think I read that they first priority is to fund students that have never gone abroad, and they would probably get get first priority with scholarships, but that doesn't mean like sorry you've had your chance that you don't get another one. That like you can always apply, you just might not be first in line. That's my
Sure.
understanding. But I think again asking Rebecca Johnson and Cal's would be the best person to ask.
I I actually so I applied for like an
Hi, Maddie.
IAP. Hi. I applied for one of the scholarships, like an early bird one, and I did get it. So and I have studied abroad before. I'm also like a Bucky's Promise student. So I don't I don't know, like I think it's like your mileage may vary. I still think you should apply because I mean I got one, so if I get into the program, it
Yeah,
would go
and I'm
towards
sure
it.
there are other like factors as well, like your
Yeah.
financial need and
Sure.
whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
just wanted to share that too
Thank
for
you. I
you.
appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Maddie. Any other questions or anything else
It
anyone else
it
would
looks
like to
like
share?
there's some more. It looks like
Oh,
there's some more
sorry, didn't see
questions in
the
the
chat.
chat.
Yeah. How safe is the program? Also for food options, will there be vegetarian options? So this is from Tavish. It says especially the stint in Johannesburg. So before this time that I was in South Africa, I went there once when I went there to check out the site this past January. I went there once in '98, so a while ago. Johannesburg is a dangerous city and has a reputation as such in the center of the city. Like I was told I had to change buses in the middle of the night, and they said don't even go into don't use the restroom there. It's not safe, and um, we're not going into Johannesburg at all. We're staying in a distant, that out the airport is well outside of the center of town. We'll be staying at a guest house the first night in because we'll probably arrive late in the day, late afternoon or evening. You'll just want to sleep. We'll go to a quiet guest house in a leafy suburb of Johannesburg that's perfectly safe. When I stayed there, I like to go running when I can. I went running early in the morning, and I didn't feel dangerous. I think there may be a few homeless people around, but like you see that in Madison too. So I but asking, I think the most dangerous aspect of the course is the animals. We'll be around wild animals. We'll be in close proximity to them. They can wander right through the middle of the research station. Um, I think, you know, that there, a lot of it is following the directions, trusting the field rangers that work there when they say like, okay, like don't walk through the middle of the research station right now, like get back under the verandas or in one of the buildings. You do what they say. Like one night I wanted to go back to a buffalo was like munching on a tree right outside the dorm, and they're actually, they have their reputation as the most dangerous African wildlife species. They're very unpredictable, and they're a massive animal with big curved horns. Um, what they did was, I wanted to go to bed, and there's buffalo in the way. They had a giant spotlight that they shone in the buffalo's eyes, and like that distracted the buffalo, and then I was kind of able to kind of you have things like that. That's sometimes you have to kind of do things according to the animal schedule, and there's animal. One time there was a herd of elephants that was acting kind of strange, and they were in the middle of the road and was like, okay, we're not going that way. We had to take a much longer route back and got back later than but you trust the rangers. They work around these animals 24/7, and they know what to do. But you follow you follow their instructions, and you pretty much stay in your room at night, and you don't just wander off into the bush. I mean, that's something I had to get used to when I was there. Like I like to go play. I like to like take walks. I like to go running. And it's like you pretty much stay around that research station when you're there. You don't just go off into the bush alone because that is dangerous. But as far as relative dangerous, I always tell, like, when I led a course in Mexico, students were often concerned about safety, or more often parents. I told them, no, you can't guarantee that it's every 100% safe, but look at some of the things that most of you students do every day in Madison without thinking, like riding a moped without a helmet, or like riding, like I do, riding a bike in the bike lane in down the middle of the University Avenue with buses on one side and traffic on the other. It's like you're much more likely to get killed doing that than traveling. Probably the probably the most dangerous part, like statistically, of our trip is just the time that will be the bus ride from place to place. Not that, the roads, I think there it's it, are safer than probably any other African country. I traveled in Kenya and it was downright scary. Um, but just statistically, if you're in a vehicle like anywhere, the chances of something unsafe happening are better than um, you know I'd say than the time that we'll be in Johannesburg, or the time that we'll be with wildlife. Um, Food options, yes, they cater to all different diets, and that's a priority. There was a woman when I was staying there who had a number of like dietary issues and health issues, and they catered well to her. Certainly vegetarian options, vegan options as well. The field station that hosts us, throughout the year, they host visitors, both student interns and like adult conservation volunteers from all over the world. I mean, there were a bunch of French visitors when I was there, and they're used to catering to, people's various needs. So yeah, they can carry cater to like gluten-free, vegan, vegetarian, other dietary needs. Other questions?
What's like some of like the coursework that we would do then, like, like for like the credit and whatnot? Like you said that there's the presentation. Is there any other like things that we'd be doing during the day?
Yeah, well, it is kind of packed into the 2 weeks, and my initial plan was to have you all complete something afterwards. Um, and then because we're right up at the end of summer, like actually we have to wrap up the course before the start of the semester. So um, there will be there will well a big part of your grade will be participation. So, each day, just like, were you a good team player? Were you there? Were you, participating and present? Um and there were the presentations that I mentioned, and there well, they're also, you will be expected to participate in the Zoom sessions, the pre-departure meetings. We'll have a couple of those. We'll have a pre-departure meeting at the in person at the very end of the spring semester, and then probably a couple during the week leading up to our trip. And then you'll uh, also maintain a journal throughout the time that you're there with impressions and reflections of what you're learning, and that'll be part of the grade. But good question, Maddie.
Cool, thank you.
Any other questions?
This is actually a question for Kira, but how did you get your position as like um an outreach person? Because that's sort of what I wanted, that's part of why I want to do this program and why I'm going on the program I currently am. I want to do like environmental activism and outreach. So how did you get to be in the position that you're in?
So I'm one of the Cal's outreach interns for study abroad specifically. So it's not really related to like environmental anything, but there was a listing on like the student employment website, and I applied, and um, then I interviewed. Yeah, I don't know. It's not really related to my field at all. But I was looking for a job, so
Oh,
yeah.
what's tea? Period.
Well, I guess if there are no more questions, one other thing I'll share, if I can do the screen share right, is the the program page. So I want to get out of that and get into I don't think I have the program page open, but so are you all seeing the program page now? UW Wildlife Conservation in South
Yep.
Africa?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you just go, so that is, I think, do you know, Kira, what's the quickest way to get to any of these program pages?
I always look up UW Study Abroad. I just Google it and then click on the first link and go to programs and then hit the search button and then search for the one that I want.
Or there's also an option where you go into a world map and you can find
Yeah,
it.
you can
But
like pick the country.
yeah, pick
Yeah.
the country. And there are other South Africa programs, like there's a Cape Town program, but this is specifically the Wildlife Conservation Program, of which there's only one for South Africa. So scroll down, there are different links here, like if you wanted to know about the cost and funding, there's the um information about scholarships and um where is that wasn't where they show the estimated cost, but yeah, the apply now is right there. So you can click on that, and then I think you got to log in, and then indicate which program you're applying to, and you can apply away. The
It
only
looks like
thing that like one of you indicated that like if you've applied to another summer program, you may not be able to access this program. It won't let you apply to two, even if they don't overlap, but you can contact uh, Rebecca Johnson and she can arrange that for you.
there's another question in the chat. Are there hippos there, gorillas, or other primates?
Yes, there are hippos. There are not gorillas anywhere in South Africa. Only gorilla is right with us here. But um, the hippos, interestingly, I did see them when I was there. They spend the day in water, usually with just their eyes and nose sticking up. They come out at night and they graze. And the one day when we came back, like after dark, usually you're not driving around in the dark, but because we had to make a big detour to get around a herd of elephants, we were coming back later than usual, and we went by. It's kind of gross actually, but there's some safari lodges, like kind of luxury safari lodges in the same game reserve, and they're also, you see their like fancy tourists also touring around in the same area. Um, but one of them, I think it's like where they dump their sewage or something. They say the hippos love it. That's where they hang out in like this nasty pond, and then they come out at night and wander around. And we saw them like just coming out at night, which was the first time I've been to other parts of Africa where I've seen hippos out in the water, but like they were wandering around on land, which was cool. As far as primates, they're monkeys. There are no no great apes in South Africa. Lots of baboons, monkey and other monkeys. Any other questions? Coolest animal that's there that I didn't see when I was there is wild dogs. Wild dogs are very rare and declining, and they're a species of conservation concern. I like we were tracking wild dogs the whole time I was there, like trying to locate them by radio telemetry, and they move like crazy. Like that, we get to one end, and then like, no, now they're at the south end, and they're just running all over the place. Um, and then I was on a group chat with the people that were there. They were there for a longer period of time than I was there, but after I left, they finally found a wild dog, and they were all excited about it. And so you get some animals you see every day, like elephants and giraffes and stuff, and it just seems like the usuals. But then there's others that like it's a real challenge to spot them. That hopefully we'll get opportunities to.
I have another question. Sorry. I
Go
forget if
ahead.
you said this, but how many students is it going to be again on the trip? Do you know?
Our limit is 18 based on the room capacity for, it's just one small dorm with,
Yeah.
I think it's like 6 rooms, that they can have up to 3 students each in. So that's what limits us. And that, from the years that I taught a Mexico class, most years we had around 15 or 16 students, and that to me was a good number. There were the last couple of times I did it, we had like 20 students, and that's getting a little like that's a little harder to manage. So, but if we get around 18, that'd be a good number. If we get less, it may cost a little more, but it's still good.
I have more of a logistics question. Are students responsible for finding their own flights, or is that all included with the cost of attendance?
The flights are not included, and students will be I believe will be responsible for their own flights. I'll have to double check that with Rebecca. I know with the Mexico course, all the years that I led it, we each time we looked into the possibility of getting a group flight rate for the whole class and have us all travel together there. It was never cheaper than students just like booking their own flights. So usually, you can get a better bargain, but booking your own flights. But what I did when I led the Mexico course is, you know, you want to kind of time when you book your flights. I would say, okay, these are the flights I'm getting. I'm getting and I usually can't get as good a deal because I have to go through the university sponsored travel agency. Um, Students can often find a better deal than I've been able to find through the university. But I'll say, these are the flights I'm taking. Um, and like, you can take this flight or you can, but that's a good question. We still need to work that out because if we're taking different flights, we'll be showing up at different times of day, but we'll have like, a window. Try to like when I went there, the host who like the organization that is kind of hosting us said, get an itinerary that has you arriving within this window, in the late afternoon and the evening. And I picked the best one I could find. Other questions? If not, thank you all for attending. Let me just type it in the chat box. My email address. If you have follow-up questions, I think it's in the program page somewhere, but feel free to shoot me an email. Look forward to seeing some of your applications.
Thank you.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
And thanks, Kira. That was great.
Yeah, no problem. One person just asked in the chat if the slides will be getting sent out.
That was well, I think there will be the whole thing was recorded. I think or will have
Yeah, I
been.
think it was as well. I don't
Yeah.
know if it automatically gets sent out, but um,
I will share the slides with the Cal Study Abroad office with Rebecca, and then she can share them out. Or if you have trouble finding them, just email me and I can send them directly to you. But they will be provided. I'm just not sure where or how yet, but probably on the program page. Somebody just joined us. Adelaide, is it you who just joined us? Well, if for the rest of you, like Luke and Esteban, if you have any further questions,
No.
all right. Well, thank you all for joining us, and have a good evening. Thanks, Kira.
Goodbye.
I'm also gonna head out.
Bye.
See ya.